He is the most documented psychic of all time and Christian County, Kentucky's most famous native son. Known as the Sleeping Prophet, Edgar Cayce could treat illnesses, predict the future, often accurately according to Cayce scholars.
For years, people have been talking about Edgar Cayce, the man known as the Sleeping Prophet. He made hundreds of predictions while in a trance, but one of his most haunting ones points straight to the year 2025 and to America. Cayce spoke of nature's fury, of storms, floods, and earthquakes shaking not just the land, but the human spirit itself. He warned that these events wouldn't just be disasters, they'd be wake-up calls, signs that humanity has drifted too far from its true purpose. But here's the scary part. Cayce's message wasn't only for America. When you really listen to his words, it feels like he's speaking to the entire world, to all of us, reminding us that change is still possible, but only if we wake up before it's too late. The karma of the soul. Cayce could read people's lives whether he had ever met them or not. They could be complete strangers from anywhere in the world. All he needed was their full name, date of birth, and place of birth. And he could describe their surroundings, personality, strengths, weaknesses, and even details about their past lives and future paths with stunning accuracy. While exploring his own life through these readings, Cayce discovered that hundreds of years ago, during a past life in ancient Egypt, he had been a high priest with powerful supernatural abilities, but his arrogance and obsession with earthly pleasures led to his downfall. He believed that the virtues and flaws he carried in this life were directly linked to that past existence, and that his current life was a kind of spiritual test, giving his soul a chance to serve others selflessly and make up for his pride, indulgence, and mistakes of the past. Many of Cayce's past life readings supported the ancient idea of karma and reincarnation, similar to the teachings found in traditional Eastern philosophy. Despite performing thousands of these readings, Cayce never claimed to have any special powers. He once said, "I'm just one of the few who can completely step aside from my own personality. That allows my soul to tap into a kind of universal knowledge. I'm not saying this to boast. I honestly don't believe I have abilities that others don't. The truth is, every human being has far greater potential than they realize. But to access it, you have to let go of selfish desires." The rise of the legend. Few clairvoyants enjoyed the renown of Edgar Cayce, America's sleeping prophet. During his lifetime, Cayce gave more than 14,000 documented readings to a wide range of people, including celebrities like Harry Houdini, Thomas Edison, Woodrow Wilson, and Marilyn Monroe. These readings covered a wide variety of topics, including personal matters and health conditions. He also foretold events, from Atlantis' rediscovery to the outbreak of World War II. Yet, he earned his most famous moniker, the Sleeping Prophet, because of his purported ability to fall asleep atop books, awakening with full retention of the facts and illustrations recorded therein. Later, this skill transformed into the ability to diagnose and recommend treatments for illnesses while in a trance-like sleeping state. Cayce himself had no formal medical training. Here's what we know about Cayce's preternatural talents, surprising predictions, and fascinating medical diagnoses. Edgar Cayce remains a controversial figure, and with good reason. Stories surrounding his early life prove sensational and hard to believe. Yet, they provide the foundational elements for this fascinating turn-of-the-century American figure's rise to fame. Among his earliest exploits is playing with the little folk and communing with his dead grandfather. He considered these entities incorporeal, claiming he could look right through them if he focused hard enough. In 1889, 12-year-old Cayce recounted a visit from a winged woman who promised to answer his prayers. With all of these supernatural beings running around, it's little wonder Cayce had difficulty concentrating on his schoolwork. The day after he first met the lady with the wings, he received an unsatisfactory report from his teacher about poor spelling. Cayce's father tested him for spelling, knocking his adolescent son out of his chair in frustration. At this moment, Cayce recalled hearing the winged lady's voice. She commanded him to fall asleep a little while so they could help him. After pleading with his dad for a quick nap, he placed his head on the spelling book and snoozed. When his father woke Cayce up, he had full recollection of the volume tucked beneath his head. His father was stunned to find his son had every page of the book memorized. Cayce repeated the process with other school books. By 1892, his teacher pronounced him the best student in class. When she questioned him about how he'd turned around his school grades, he mentioned sleeping atop books. Each time he did this, he woke to full recollection of their contents. The legend of the sleeping prophet was born. Over time, his ability to absorb books during slumber was eclipsed by another talent: his ability to provide people with full medical diagnoses in his sleep. Acting as a clairvoyant doctor began with self-diagnosis. After getting hit in the spine with a ball during a school game, Cayce acted strangely. His parents put him to bed. To their astonishment, he began talking in his sleep, diagnosing his condition and describing how to cure it. After following their sleeping son's instructions, Cayce received healing. Soon, newspapers billed Cayce as the illiterate man who becomes a doctor when hypnotized. They described how Cayce, whom they described as a psychic diagnostician, would take off his coat, collar, and tie before reclining. He would then close his eyes and sigh deeply. Moments later, his eyes would open, filled with a dreamy quality as if in a trance, and he would start reciting diagnoses, cures, and even predictions. During his lifetime, he gave more than 14,000 readings covering a wide range of topics. There are hundreds of people throughout the United States who will testify at the drop of a hat to the accuracy of his diagnoses and the efficacy of his suggestions for treatment. Whether these information amounted to much more than anecdotal evidence remains up for debate. But Cayce's health recommendations from the 1920s and 30s do hold up to today's standards. His tips for leading a long and healthy life included getting a good night's sleep, cooking with olive oil, exercising, and drinking plenty of water. Besides his penchant for sleep-talking medical diagnoses, Cayce also made fascinating prophecies. While some appear to have proven accurate, others remain up for interpretation. Among those predictions attributed to him are foretelling the stock market crash of 1929 on two separate occasions, the first in February 1925, and then 6 months before the event, in March 1929. In 1935, he predicted how World War II would unfold, describing an unprecedented alliance between the Germans, Austrians, and Japanese. It's worth noting that this alliance would not come to light until the Tripartite Pact signing on September 27, 1940. Cayce also predicted the whole world will be set on fire by the militaristic groups. Other strange foretellings from the sleeping prophet include the use of blood as a diagnostic tool, the discovery of the La Niña and El Niño effects, and the convergence of communications companies in a cooperative and structured manner. He also spoke at length about the Dead Sea Scrolls and the people who created them, the Essenes. Yet, the Dead Sea Scrolls weren't discovered until 1947, 2 years after Cayce's death. And it would take many more years before details about the lives of the Essenes would begin to emerge. Cayce also discussed the lost city of Atlantis, predicting its rediscovery near Bimini in 1968 or 1969. In 1968, archaeologists discovered an underwater rock formation off the coast of the Bahamian island of North Bimini. The formation sits 18 feet below the surface. Some hypothesize it marks the submerged city's entrance. Although debate still rages about whether the Bimini Road is naturally occurring or human-made, its discovery lends additional credence to America's favorite clairvoyant, the anger from Nature Mother. Edgar Cayce made impressive predictions about changes in the Earth's geography. He claimed that the continents would shift and the climate would change the world in unimaginable ways. He suggested that this transformation could happen suddenly with the eruptions of Mount Etna in Italy and Mount Pelée in Martinique. Both are active volcanoes, with Etna being one of the most active in the world, having erupted recently, while Pelée had its last major eruption in 1902. One of the most critical aspects of this change would occur in Africa. Cayce predicted that the continent would split into 3 parts due to the formation of a massive new waterway, with the Nile River widening and the Red Sea expanding significantly. This dramatic change could even submerge the bustling city of Cairo under the sea. Asia would not escape these convulsions either. Cayce predicted changes in the geography of India, China, Japan, Korea, and the Philippines. He stated that the Pacific Ocean would advance and swallow large portions of land from the Philippines to Japan, leaving only a few remaining islands. The Korean peninsula and parts of China's coastline would also succumb to the rising seas. For India, Cayce issued a specific warning. He advised seeking refuge in the country's higher elevations due to the potential collapse of land. He believed that the Himalayas in Tibet and Nepal would offer safer refuge for Indians. Cayce also made less favorable predictions for Antarctica. He suggested that as the ice melted, the geological structure of the region would undergo drastic transformations, affecting global climate and altering weather patterns in unpredictable ways. Despite the extreme conditions, Antarctica is home to vibrant wildlife, including penguins, seals, whales, and seabirds. The ice sheet provides essential habitats and breeding areas, protecting many species from predators and ensuring access to food. However, Edgar Cayce predicted a dramatic transformation. Antarctica would lose its ice cover and turn into a vast green expanse, perfect for agriculture. On the other hand, Cayce foresaw a less favorable fate for Australia. He predicted that floods would cover a quarter of Australia's territory, submerging cities like Adelaide. Ironically, the arid deserts like Simpson and Gibson would transform into fertile agricultural lands. New Zealand, however, would emerge unscathed and might even expand, connecting to Australia and becoming a refuge for those displaced by global convulsions. In Europe, the predictions were equally dramatic. Cayce predicted that much of northern Europe, including Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark, would submerge, leaving only a fragmented archipelago of islands. The United Kingdom would also suffer, with vast areas from Scotland to the English Channel succumbing to rising sea levels. Although some highland areas, such as London and Birmingham, might remain intact, many regions would not escape the devastating changes. Ireland would be almost entirely swallowed by the ocean, leaving only the highest peaks above the waterline. For ocean enthusiasts, Cayce almost predicted an expansion of the terrestrial waters. A new sea would emerge from the merging of the Black and Baltic Seas, cutting Russia off from continental Europe and extending into Siberia. This would position Russia as Europe's granary, a fertile agricultural power. Extended lifespan. We know that humans are now living longer than at the time of Edgar Cayce, but his readings seem to indicate that a healthy human lifespan would extend years beyond that which we are currently living. He once said, "Now, we find there are many changes in the body since we have had this, many for good. Many of the organs and the conditions show the changes as come about by the natural, or so-called natural conditions and changes as the body succumbs to the effects of age or usage in the system. Much of this may be overcome. Man should live much longer than has been ordinarily given, and will." While we have seen improvements in healthcare that have increased lifespans compared to Cayce's time, living for centuries remains a drastic idea. It would mean not just adding years to life, but also maintaining good health over extended periods. Cayce's vision implies that future generations might enjoy a longer and better quality of life in their later years. This could lead to changes in how societies are structured, including retirement ages and healthcare systems. The idea challenges us to think about aging not as a process of decline, but as an opportunity for continued growth and contribution to society. While Cayce's specific timeframe and ways for achieving these longer lifespans remain uncertain and speculative, his vision encourages us to consider the possibilities of future medical advancements and their potential impact on human longevity. It makes us imagine a future where aging is viewed differently, with new opportunities and challenges for individuals and society as a whole. The predictions fulfilled. Unlike other prophets of his time, his predictions covered a wide range of topics, from health and wellness to spirituality, past lives, ancient civilizations, and future technologies. The feats of the sleeping prophet were limitless. In 1902, a young woman with a severe head injury was brought to him. While doctors believed she would not survive, he nearly diagnosed that the real problem was in the spine, not the brain, and suggested that doctors adjust her spine. He read the human body like an X-ray machine, using medical terms with surprising accuracy. In a few months, the young woman showed great improvement. Edgar also used his gifts for the good of the economy. In 1929, foreseeing the imminent stock market crash, he warned his friends to sell their shares. Those who followed his advice managed to save large sums of money. People frequently asked Edgar about who would win a horse race or what would happen in the stock market, and he often responded, bringing profits to those who followed his advice. In one of those predictions, he was correct in saying that the economy would improve until 1930. In 1934, he predicted that Hitler would become an influential leader in Germany, which happened that same year. He also predicted that Hitler's rule would not last, and that a war coming from outside Germany would end his empire. He anticipated the outbreak of a significant war in the heart of Europe, and Germany started World War II, which led to the end of Hitler's reign. He was right in predicting that Germany, Austria, and Japan would form an alliance. Edgar also spoke about the existence of ruins of an ancient civilization under the ocean, near Bimini, in the Bahamas. In 1938, he suggested that this city was the legendary Atlantis, a super-advanced civilization. Curiously, in 1968, underwater structures were found in Bimini, which some researchers believe support Edgar's prophecies. He described Atlantis as a vast continent in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, with technology more advanced than ours, but which disappeared under the ocean about 10,000 years ago due to a great flood. Could this flood be the same one recorded in the Bible during the days of Noah? One of Edgar's most famous predictions was about the 44th president of the United States. He said that this president would be African American, which came true with the election of Barack Obama. Additionally, he was aware of the realities of the Cold War, predicting many of the challenges and tensions of the time. At the height of the Soviet Union's power, Edgar made a surprising statement. The hope of the world would come from Russia, not through communism, but through freedom. He claimed that this hope would take time, but that Russia would eventually free itself from communism, which came true with the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. Another impressive example involves the Jewish sect of the Essenes. In 1934, when little was known about them, Edgar provided detailed descriptions that were later proven accurate. He even predicted the discovery of their records and documents, which was confirmed only 12 years later with the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. All these impressive predictions of Edgar were fulfilled in the 20th century, and he also made some grim predictions for our times. Despite the skepticism, Cayce still has fervent defenders who highlight the accuracy of some of his diagnoses and advice to sick individuals, even without medical training. These controversies and debates about his predictions keep the curiosity and fascination for his figure alive to this day. Edgar Cayce's enduring legacy, fueled by widespread interest in psychic phenomena, continues to intrigue many. A recent survey revealed that many believe in some form of extrasensory perception or psychic ability. It also highlighted the difference between believers and skeptics. While skeptics tend to be more analytical and critical, believers generally have a more emotional and creative mindset. Interestingly, those who believe in psychic abilities reported experiencing greater happiness and lower levels of stress than skeptics. The enigma of psychic abilities and religious miracles has always fascinated humanity, especially because they challenge traditional scientific explanations. It is undeniable that such experiences can bring comfort to those who suffer, hope to those facing difficulties, and a sense of order in an often chaotic world. Although there is debate about the authenticity of his psychic abilities, Cayce's legacy reminds us that regardless of our personal beliefs about the paranormal, compassion and altruism have a profound and real impact. An interesting curiosity is why Edgar Cayce was called the Sleeping Prophet. This nickname arose because Cayce made his predictions and readings while appearing to be asleep, or rather, in a trance state. He would lie down, close his eyes, and still manage to speak about incredible things that seemed to come from another dimension. Now, think about the possibility of accessing parts of our minds that we normally don't use. Edgar Cayce showed that perhaps we all have a hidden ability to attain profound knowledge simply by changing the way we use our minds. If we learn to do this as Cayce did, imagine how many mysterious and interesting things we might discover about the world and ourselves. This makes us reflect on the incredible power that resides within each of us, waiting to be explored. The Awakeness Year. The year 2025, according to Cayce, marks a pivotal moment in human history. It's described as an epoch where a collective awakening occurs the world. He believed that by 2025, humanity would experience a significant spiritual awakening, leading to a deeper connection with our inner selves and a greater awareness of our interconnectedness with all living beings. This prediction resonates with the increasing interest in mindfulness, meditation, and holistic well-being practices in our modern society. As scientific and technological advancements have dominated our collective focus, many have found themselves feeling increasingly disconnected from a sense of meaning and purpose in their lives. That is what Edgar Cayce saw long ago, and he believed that 2025 is the perfect time for everyone to awaken. We all need to seek out ways to reconnect with their inner selves and find greater fulfillment in life. Edgar Cayce also spoke about the awakening that people must experience after leaving this world. He told, "After death, we may enter a region that is void of love, life, and light, void of everything. For some, this region is approximately their wish come true. Here, they are truly alone with themselves. For some souls, this is a pain that is unbearable. In the absence of truth, love, gentleness, and kindness, some souls fill the void with an irrational and unbelievable amount of pain and fear. It is so dark in the realm of outer darkness that the darkness hurts, and panic grips them without knowing why. There are various degrees of darkness to this realm, and it is darker and denser at the center than at its outer fringes. The closer we are to the outer edges, the more interaction there is with others in the realm. The closer to the center, the darker and more painful is the solitude. Those who find themselves in outer darkness cannot travel across this dimension. They must grow through the levels of this realm. After death, one may find themselves in a particular degree of darkness that most closely corresponds to the degree of the absence of love in one's life. Outer darkness is not a punishment. It is a region which operates lawfully for the benefit of those who are there. This region is not a realm which was created for any soul to experience, but one which came about as a consequence of the negative activity of souls in creation. So great has been the desire for self, so monumental across time and space has been the selfishness of some of God's creatures, that this realm is the creation or manifestation of their own collective activities. Outer darkness and the reality with which it is associated were created and are held in place by collective self-interest. Being spiritually awakened means that an individual has had a profound shift in their understanding of themselves and the world around them. This awakening often comes after a period of feeling disconnected, lost, or unfulfilled in life. Interestingly, some individuals report experiencing physical symptoms, such as a fever, during their spiritual awakening, signifying a kind of intense inner burning away of old beliefs and patterns. Spiritual awakening can happen suddenly or gradually, and it often involves a change in perception, a deepening of self-awareness, and a newfound sense of connection to a higher power, even amidst internal conflict. Spiritual awakening can take many forms and can be experienced in different ways by different people. Some common signs and symptoms of spiritual awakening can include a greater sense of empathy, compassion, and love towards others, an increased ability to live in the present moment, a deeper connection to nature and the universe, a heightened awareness of synchronicities and signs, and a sense of inner peace and contentment. Ultimately, being spiritually awakened means that an individual has come to a new level of understanding and awareness about themselves and the natural world. It's through this ascension process that you realize your potential and find the ability to change your life profoundly. In other words, they've had a spiritual ascension. Now, it's important to understand the difference between awakening and ascension. At the same time, spiritual awakening refers to the internal shift in consciousness that an individual experiences, leading to a profound change in their understanding of themselves and the world. Ascension, specifically 5D ascension, signifies an evolution beyond the physical reality into a realm of higher spiritual enlightenment and awareness. This spiritual ascension, often referred to as 5D ascension, signifies a shift from the three-dimensional physical reality to a five-dimensional realm of spiritual enlightenment and awareness. It often involves a newfound sense of purpose and direction in life, as well as a deepening of one's spiritual practices and beliefs. Ultimately, being spiritually awakened means that an individual has come to a new level of understanding and awareness about themselves and the natural world. It's through this ascension process that you realize your potential and find the ability to change your life profoundly. In other words, they've had a spiritual ascension. Now, it's important to understand the difference between awakening and ascension. While spiritual awakening refers to the internal shift in consciousness that an individual experiences, leading to a profound change in their understanding of themselves and the world, ascension, specifically 5D ascension, signifies an evolution beyond the physical reality into a realm of higher spiritual enlightenment and awareness. This spiritual ascension, often referred to as 5D ascension, signifies a shift from the three-dimensional physical reality to a five-dimensional realm of spiritual enlightenment and awareness. It often involves a newfound sense of purpose and direction in life, as well as a deepening of one's spiritual practices and beliefs. And if you have these signs, might be you are experiencing a spiritual awakening. One of the first signs of spiritual awakening is heightened intuition. Intuition is often described as an inner knowing, a subtle voice or feeling that guides us without conscious reasoning. Imagine moments when you suddenly just know the right path to take, or when you understand something without needing to analyze it. These instances become more frequent and pronounced. You might make decisions based on a feeling or a hunch, which often are remarkably accurate and beneficial. This heightened intuition keeps you in tune with your inner voice, which speaks from your true self, free from overthinking and external influences. The noise of everyday life dims, allowing you to hear the wisdom inside you all along. As you experience this shift, your intuition becomes a source of creativity and inspiration. You may discover new solutions to problems or feel inspired to take paths you hadn't considered before. Trusting this inner guidance can be empowering, leading to a deeper understanding of yourself and your purpose. Increased empathy and compassion is the second sign. You may gain a deeper empathy and compassion, as you journey through a spiritual awakening. Suddenly, the boundaries between your emotions and those of others might seem blurred, allowing you to feel what they feel with a heightened sense of understanding and sensitivity. You might genuinely experience the ebbs and flows of emotions that others are going through. This increased empathy can extend to all living beings, people, animals, and the environment. You become more at one with the subtle expressions of nature and the silent voices of animals, sensing their unspoken stories and needs. Alongside empathy, your compassion also grows. This might manifest in small acts of kindness, like offering a listening ear to a friend or helping a stranger in need. Or it could inspire more significant changes in your life, such as volunteering for causes you care about or making lifestyle choices that are more considerate of the planet and its population. This increase in empathy and compassion is a sign of your heart opening and your consciousness expanding. You start to see the interconnectedness of all life, recognizing that the well-being of others directly impacts your own. As enriching as this heightened empathy and compassion can be, looking after yourself is important. Being deeply attuned to the emotions of others can feel overwhelming at times. Setting healthy emotional boundaries helps you maintain your emotional well-being. The next sign that you need to focus on is desire for meaningful connections. A key aspect of experiencing a spiritual awakening is the desire for deeper, more meaningful connections in your life. This shift often begins as a growing dissatisfaction with superficial interactions and a hunger for relationships that offer genuine depth and authenticity. You may find yourself longing for conversations beyond the mundane, seeking to connect on a level that nourishes your soul and aligns with your newfound understanding of the world. As you embark on this journey, the nature of your relationships may begin to change. You might gravitate towards people who share your values and perspectives or challenge you to grow and think in new ways. You might seek out those who understand and respect your journey in your friendships, offering support and wisdom. In romantic relationships, you may desire a partner who supports and participates in your spiritual growth. Even in professional settings, you might find yourself drawn to work that feels more aligned with your values and allows for authentic expression. This shift can also mean letting go of relationships that no longer serve your growth. Recognizing that some connections might hinder your journey is an essential part of this process. It's about finding balance and ensuring that your social circle reflects and supports your spiritual path. Changing priorities is also a special sign. During a spiritual awakening, one of the most noticeable changes is your priorities and values. You might find yourself reassessing what truly matters to you, leading to a significant shift in how you view and interact with the world. You'll begin to value personal growth, meaningful relationships, and enriching experiences over material possessions. This realization can be liberating, freeing you from pursuing material gains and allowing you to focus on what genuinely enriches your life. As personal growth climbs higher on your list of priorities, you might invest more time and energy in activities that nurture your mind, body, and spirit. This could include meditation, yoga, reading, or creative hobbies.